Well, hey, everybody. Welcome to episode number 207 of Mike in the Midwest, our mini podcast for the amazing patrons just like you of the Be Our Guest podcast. Of course, my name is Mike Rallman, host of the Be Our Guest podcast, and you can find me on the social media at Be Our Guest Mike. That would be Instagram, Twitter, and Threads, the three places you can find me the most. And of course, you can find me in the Be Our Guest Podcast Clubhouse. No cost. Everybody invited. All kinds of Disney fans talking Disney 24/7 from all around the world. All kinds of channels there. We have the Disney Cruise Line Travel channel. We have the Parks channel. We have the Disneyland channel, the D23 channel, the movies, the TV channel, the Just Living Life channel. We have sports. We have England versus Spain. A lot of folks are going to be hanging out in there, like our good friend Simon from over in England slowly does it. He'll be over there with Sully cheering him on today. I saw a great picture with Sully and Lightning McQueen this morning over in the clubhouse. Ka-chow. Great picture. Cute as could be. So come on over to the clubhouse. Hang out with us. We're a big community. We're a big family there, and I love that sense of community we have there. So hope you're doing well. I've missed you guys. I've been out of the studio here for about 10 days. Feels good to be back here in the Be Our Guest Podcast studios in my old gold studio here, Mizzou Gold, as we have it here in lovely St. Peters, Missouri. But man, haven't been home here but about 12 hours. And wow, did we have a good time on the Disney Fantasy. We're going to be talking about that this week on the big show. I just got to thank you guys so much for being patrons of the Be Our Guest Podcast. That's the biggest thing. This cruise, so much to share. And I'm going to share it, of course, on the big show because that's what the show's about. It's about Disney adventures, about Walt Disney World, Disneyland, Disney Cruise Line. So I want to get that out there for everybody. But of course, you guys are the patrons. And I know this is usually about stories of me growing up here in the Midwest, but you guys are Disney fans. We're going to get some inside nuggets here today. And of course, this was the off year cruise for us. This was not the podcast cruise year. We do that in the odd numbered years. And we're going to be sailing the Disney Magic next summer, July 6th to the 11th. We're going to head down to Lighthouse Key, the Lookout Key at Lighthouse Point. I'll get that right, hopefully by July 6th of next year on the beautiful Disney Magic. Cannot wait. We have lots of folks. Trisha's sailing with us, lots of folks going with us. I'm already counting down the days because, man, when you get off a ship, the only way you can get off a Disney Cruise Line ship is knowing you're going to be back, you're booked, you're ready to go. So I'm locked into the Disney Magic. Can't wait to sail with you guys. But cruises are amazing. And Dennis knows this. He's tuned in. Dennis knows if you've been on a Disney cruise, you get spoiled so much. So much. It's so hard to be back. This morning, I had 2 eggs for breakfast. 2 eggs. That's it. If you knew what I had for breakfast the last 7 days, it was ridiculous. I'll talk about how many desserts I had in one day this week coming up. It was in the double digits. That was just one day, desserts. It was unbelievable. It was the day we went to Palo Brunch. I will give you that. We had an awesome waiter. But I'm just telling you, if you're going on your first Disney cruise anytime soon, you cannot prepare yourself for the level of spoilage that you're going to get, the level of service. And I know you probably say, when I go to Walt Disney World, Mike, the cast members are so good to me. I have a great waiter or waitress when I go to Le Cellier, or when I go to Citrico's, or when I go to Topolino's Terrace, or even when I go to Casey's. Or, when I go to the check-in counter at Coronado Springs. And yes, that is absolutely true. The cast members of Walt Disney World are amazing. The difference with a cruise, and back me up for the folks that have been on cruises, and we're going to get to the feedback from last week's show and all that stuff. I know today's going to be just kind of a different format. It's going to be free-flowing for about 30 minutes. This is going to be stuff that I might touch on the podcast, and I might not. This is just first take with you guys, with our patrons. Just kind of what I wanted to talk to you guys about. Because again, this was not a podcast cruise. This was just me, my wife, Mallory, and my niece, who had never seen a cruise ship before. She's 15, lives just down the road from us, about 10 minutes, goes to a different school district. and we'll talk about why she went with us. And we invited her last minute. I'll tell the whole story here in a second. But the thing about the difference between about the level of spoilage on a cruise as opposed to Walt Disney World is at Walt Disney World, you might see these people, you might have like one interaction with them. I think this is the difference. On a cruise, you tend to develop a relationship with the people that are taking care of you, your wait staff. You will see them for 5 nights in a row, sometimes multiple times a day for lunch and dinner. Sometimes you'll see them at breakfast. You'll see them on the island if you go to Castaway Key or Lookout Key. They serve on the island. Your room steward, you'll see them multiple times a day. Sometimes you won't see them at all. It's like they're a ghost, but your room is always made up perfectly. Like our room steward this cruise, Mr. Rennie, he was awesome. And he would just call me Mr. Mike all the time. Mr. Mike, you ready for a great day? Mr. Mike, did you have an awesome day on the island? He was awesome. Just a little just guy. Just couldn't have been just nicer. He was such a wonderful gentleman. Mr. Mike, how was your day? It made me so happy, Mr. Mike, when he called me that. I mean, like I just wanted to hug him. He was so kind to me. Like I'm almost getting a tear thinking of him because I mean he was nicer to me than he needed to be, and he worked so hard. He worked so hard for us. And our serving team, like entertained the girls, brought us whatever we wanted, made sure our food was always prepared how we liked it, always checked in on us. I mean, our drinks were never half empty. Just amazing. You know, and we always went down to the tube each night. Pam and I did because Mallory and Zoe went off to Vibe and hung out with a lot of their friends. I got a funny story about Mallory too, but they went out to Vibe every night and hung out with all the teens and stuff. And they, you know, sometimes they go to Vibe and they'd meet the people in Vibe and then they'd hang out the atrium. And they just run the ship. They just had a good time. So they did their thing every single night of the cruise, all the teens. So Pam and I just did our thing. So every night after the show or something, we went to the show. We saw Aladdin, we saw Frozen, we saw Believe. So we saw the 3 big shows in the theater. The other nights we went and did other stuff. But every night at 10 o'clock, we were always in the tube for the big, you know, adult night stuff that starts at 10. But Morgan was the adult activities host from England. And she was just amazing. Like she always got the game shows going, you know, whether it was a silent disco party or intuition or the 80s video challenge or match your mate, whatever it was, the quest, we were always having a good time. And I'm also going to talk about this because again, I'm giving you a primer for folks that have never cruised. And I'm hoping the people that have cruised are nodding along with me because I think this is true. And maybe this is me I've sailed Disney Cruise Line, I think 19 times at this point. I'm platinum. I'm not pearl, but I'm platinum. So I've sailed quite a few times at this point, 18, 19 times, I think. And I've sailed Royal a couple times and I've had a good time on Royal too. So it's also the same. It doesn't, I think it's just a cruise thing. This is not a Disney cruise thing. It's a cruise thing. But this time when we're sailing with our family, now typically I do sail with Scott, right? I sail with Scott's family. So I have a built-in and usually the Foresters. And a lot of times it's a podcast cruise. Every other cruise for me is typically a podcast cruise. So I'm like insulated already with like 75, 100 people. So we already have a party. You know you're going to have a good time. We already have our listeners there. We know each other. When we get on the ship, we're set. Like we know we're all going to be like going to the tube or we're going to be going to Evolution or wherever we're going to be going. We're going to be having pizza at 10 o'clock at Flo's. We're already built in. The fun guaranteed because we all know each other. We're going to get along. And here's the thing. This year's podcast cruise is going to be way better. I have a feeling because we have the clubhouse to lead up to things. Like the community is already there. Like we didn't have this clubhouse going prior to last year's podcast cruise. I feel like everybody's going to know each other so well leading into this one because of the clubhouse. We're going to be virtually hanging out all the time prior to this cruise. I think the clubhouse is going to make this one better. That's just my personal opinion because I feel like we're all kind of virtually hanging out basically in like a bar all the time in the clubhouse, in the Discord. I love this thing. I don't know if you guys love it as much as I do, but I love checking in just to see what's going on. Like you can stop in, hang out for 5 minutes, check out a couple of threads. What's happening? Okay. You know, Scott said this, Simon said that, Trisha said that, Deanna said that, you know, Ian said this. Travel hacks. We got that. Not Corey. The Mizzou guy, my friend from down the street here in St. Charles. He's giving me some travel hacks. They're way too complicated. I can't follow yet, but I'm going to learn these things eventually with all the credit cards and rewards points, so I could travel for almost free. It's amazing, but it's like it's our club. It's why it's a clubhouse. It's our little club. It's our little hangout. It's like our cheers. I love it. You can stay for 5 minutes. You can stay for 5 hours, and people are there in real time, so you can chat in real time if you want to. There's even a voice feature at the bottom. Nobody uses it, but if you want to, you can talk to people voice. You can just go to the very bottom, click, and boom, you can talk voice to people if you got a friend in there at the same time. It's super cool. You can play cards. Anyway, that's just something neither here nor there. And by the way, the patrons have their own clubhouse too, if you want to use that. But beyond the point, when you're on a cruise, and I was on this cruise again, just myself, my wife, and the girls. And we'll talk about Paige in a second. That's kind of you might have noticed that. But if you ever notice when you go on a cruise that like you all of a sudden kind of make cruise buddies along the way. So there was this family from California that we just kept running into at the evening events. It was Nick and his family. They're from California. They were a family of about 8. Like it was the parents, a little bit older than us. Nick was definitely younger than us. He was younger than Scott and like his sisters and stuff. But Nick was a wild man. You may have seen a video in the Discord that I posted. The one night it got nuts. I can't remember what game show that was, but there was a game show where we were trying to win our side of the club against the other side of the club. And I mean, it got out of control. Clothes were being shed. Tables were being picked up. People were being picked up and carried around the club. It was wild. I mean, it was like 11:30. It was wild. Nick was down in his underwear, but Nick was like my cruise buddy. And like we didn't hang out other than in the tube at activities in the tube, but I'd see Nick around the ship all the time. So every time I'd see Nick, I'd be like, Nick. And so you'd fist bump. I saw Nick in St. Thomas. Fist bump. We were out just randomly on the island. I saw Nick at we were passing in the shopping area. I saw Nick there. It's funny because the ship holds a couple thousand people, and you just run into there's certain people you see over and over again. And Nick's family was that. And I saw Nick in Tortola. Nick was passed out at a bar right by the pier. But Nick was awesome. He was so cool. And his family was super cool. But it was so fun because Nick was kind of like we were playing one game where I was up on stage and I had to, I forget what it was called, the name of the game. I'll remember it. But like I had the dry erase board, and the deal with the game show was I had to write down what I thought our side of the room would say to a prompt. So like the host Morgan would say, name a game that uses a ball. And so I didn't have to say what I thought. I had to write down on the dry erase board what I thought. Oh, it's like majority rules or something like that. So I had to write on the dry erase board what I thought the majority of the room would say. And if I matched, we got a point. And so I had to think, okay, what's everybody going to say? And so boom, Nick was leading the charge though. He was like the leader, the ringleader of our half of the room every time. He was like vocal. So he would get everybody he's like, I know what Mike's going to go with. I know what Mike's going to go with. Football. I know that dude. He's got a Mizzou hat on. So he was always boom. And we won the game. Like, so we were like he became my cruise buddy. So it was just stuff like that was fun. And I came back and I'm like recharged because a cruise is relaxing, but a cruise is also an opportunity to like, when do you get to do stuff like this? And I think I've said this prior on the cruise on the show many times, is that a cruise offers you opportunities to do things that you don't do in real life, by air quotes. And some people might do these things, but when do you get to play game shows? And if you know me, and my life is an open book on the podcast, on Mike in the Midwest. If there's one thing, I'm not shy about who I am. I'm a nerd. I'm not super cool. I just am who I am. And if you like me, you like me. If you don't, I'm sorry. I wish you did, but not everybody is for everybody. And I understand that. But One of the things I love is old game shows. I love Love Boat. That's one of my favorite TV shows of all time. So obviously I like cruising. But one of my other things that I love is I love old game shows. I watch an old TV channel on Pluto TV. It's called Buzzer, and it just plays like old 80s TV game shows like, Pressure Luck and Price is Right and Super Password and stuff like that. So going to on a cruise where you get to play these game shows, kind of game shows and audience participation. Like they play Match Your Mate, which is the newlywed game. My wife said, if you volunteer for us to get up on that, we are getting divorced. So I don't even play with that. We sit in the back. We do not get up there because I am not going there with some of those questions in front of a crowd because my wife would be super uncomfortable. I would be super uncomfortable. I do have a limit. I get that. Like hey, I'm Mr. Microphone, like my wife says, but I am not going there in front of the club with all the video cameras going. So that's where I draw the line. It's not worth it for a bottle of bubbly. So we watch Match Your Mate and have a good time with that. And we laugh and have a good time, but we're not going up on the stage for that one. Pass. But I do like playing all the other game shows. If I get picked and if I don't, it's fine. Like we like watching them. We like, but like it seems like the adult activities director will find a couple of people early and then like keep going to them. And of course I'm kind of tall. So like Morgan kept picking on, like she would say, Mike, I'm glad you're here. And then like, boom, 15 minutes later, as the show started, I was always on the stage, like for everything. I was air drumming. I was playing all the games and it was fun because I enjoy that kind of stuff and it made the cruise fun. So when you get to do that kind of stuff, also in my real life, I'll be honest with you. I never drink. I do not drink at home. I'm not a beer drinker. We don't have alcohol in the house. We might have like one, I think we have one thing of like a tequila somewhere from when people come over. But we do these tastings on the ship, right? Because, I'm very, nobody's driving when you're on a cruise. There's no danger to anybody. And it's a very controlled environment, right? You're with a bartender. Everybody's safe. Nobody's going anywhere. And you get to learn kind of the history of like how the drink is made, where it comes from, and why it is the way it is. And I enjoy kind of the whole experience of it. Now I enjoy like the whole, you feel good and all that. It's fun too. I'm not going to lie. But like I got to do, because tequila is my favorite drink, I've learned over the years. So I did tequila tasting with Dwayne from Jamaica in the Skyline Lounge. I got to do that 2 times, which was fun because I enjoy that with margaritas. But I also did, what was the other? I did 4. So I did what was the other one? Oh, we did mixology, which was a kind of a fun one. Now usually mixology, you get to get behind the bar and shake up all the drinks. We didn't get to do that in this one. We did it in Meridian, which if you've been on the Fantasy or the Dream, it's the fancy bar that's in between Remy and Palo, the 2 fancy adult restaurants in the back of the ship. We had a sommelier that taught this one. So he basically mixed all the drinks and just passed them out and told us like, we're all about smelling and tasting. So I was kind of disappointed because I'm more like, I want to be Tom Cruise in Cocktail, right? I want to be like behind the bar, shaking them up, wishing I could flip them behind my back and stuff like that. It was fine. Like we had a few tasty drinks, but that was my least favorite. Mixology was my least favorite of the 4 classes that I did. And mixology is usually my favorite. So I was like, but I love Meridian because it's a beautiful bar. It's on the very back middle of the ship and it's got an awesome view out the back. But I was like, God, it's called mixology. We got to mix, but we didn't mix. He mixed. And he told us, it's very educational though. And anyway, but the last one, here's what I want to tell you. I'm telling you this because I'm going to give you a heads up if you're going on a cruise. Martini. Now, this was true of the Wish when we sailed on the podcast cruise too last summer. I signed up for this one on a whim. Martini tasting. I don't even know what a martini is, but it was open. And I was like, why not? I don't know. Maybe I'll like what a martini is. I had no idea. I don't know what gin is. I learned in the class that a martini is made with gin and vermouth or something, but I had no idea. But I was like, it's open. It's $25. Let's do this. And it was something to do. So we signed up for it on the Wish last summer. We did it with Cheryl Pavia from Switzerland and some other listeners because it was a podcast cruise. We had a great time on that one. My wife said it was her favorite thing on the podcast cruise last year. So I was like, what? And it was, they were tasty little colored drinks. It they were almost like margaritas, but they were in that, they have to be in the martini glass. It looks like James Bond, right? And that's what they told us. Anything that's served in that like James Bond glass, it's a martini. That's the only thing that makes it a martini is the glass. So I'm like, okay. So Pam's like, it's you guys sign us up for the martini tasting on this cruise, right? So I'm like, okay, cool. So I signed us up for this one. It was put on by Dwayne, the guy who did the tequila tasting in Skyline. So I'm like, yes, this guy is awesome. I love this guy. He's from Jamaica. He's awesome. I got my pictures with him on Instagram. He's really cool. And in this one, we got to mix the drinks. So it's like mixology. So this was the last one. We did this one on the second to last day of the cruise. So it's kind of as the cruise is coming to an end, I'm starting to get sad. Where it's all wrapping up. I'm like, oh no, I got to get off the ship. This is my last tasting. Tomorrow's the last day of the cruise. But I'm thinking we're not going to get this is going to be like mixology. He's just going to lay them out to us, tell us about them. We're going to get to drink them, and it's going to be good, but we're not going to get to do much. Nope. He like has all the stuff laid out on the bar. He lets us like put the ice in. He told us about how to make the pours, like you do the counts 1, 2, 3. We get to get the ice in and the I don't know what all the things are called. Shake it up with the metal can. And I mean, that thing gets cold super fast. Like I don't make drinks at home. So this is a novelty to me. And then, you pour them out because there's only like 15 people in there. This wasn't a very big one. So then everybody gets their little drinks, and these drinks were amazing. And I found a new favorite 2 drinks. One was called a key lime martini. We actually had a full one that night in Evolution before I did my air drumming solo that you can find on Instagram Reels. I was powered by key lime martini. And then there was like a Black Forest martini. It was like drinking a piece of cake. So if you're going to go on a cruise, I don't know if martinis are popular or not, because again, I don't drink. But even if you're not somebody who's like a drinker, the martini tasting might be the way to go, because I've done it twice, and they're tasty. They're kind of, I don't know if they're supposed to be like sweet drinks, but they've been, most of them are like pretty sweet drinks, almost like margaritas. And the both classes that I've done on the Wish and the Fantasy now have been a lot of fun by both presenters. And so I thought like martini would be like stuffy, like super fancy, but they've been fun. They've been almost like a tequila or margarita tasting. So I would highlight that if you are going on a cruise sometime, don't discount doing the martini tasting. So that was one of the highlights. I don't know if I'll talk about that. I probably will talk about it on the big show, just so everybody knows, but just so you guys have a heads up, if you get a chance to sign up for that, do that. So that just, I'm going to talk about this stuff on the podcast coming up, but that's one of the things. Paige didn't get to go on this cruise. I mean, obviously, you probably saw that in the pictures. She was going to go, but she's taking her basketball team. Again, she's the director of basketball operations for the University of Illinois Chicago women's basketball team. And for the very first time, about 6 months ago, they got permission to take the women's team. They've never been able to take the women's basketball team overseas for an exhibition tour. The men have got to go the last 2 years, but never the women. They've never got the funding. Paige got it through to where the women get to go to Barcelona, Spain. So it's a big deal for the university. It's a big deal. So they're going next week. So this was like terrible timing when we found out that this went through for like the last 6-7 months. And we've been trying to make this happen. I was like, Paige, we can buy internet on the ship. You can work from the ship. But of course, like she's the director of basketball operations. Like she's like the high up there in the whole program. And with taking a whole basketball program overseas, and a lot of these girls on her team, honestly, have never left the States, let alone like the Midwest where they're from. And that they're going to be going here in like 10 days. I get it. She was super stressed, right? You don't want to be in, the West Indies when something critical comes up and you're trying to figure out how to get your team to Barcelona. So she was getting super, super stressed. I get it. Like I wanted my daughter to be there. There was a point where I was getting kind of, selfish, I think, because I wanted to spend time with my daughter. I love Paige. She's my buddy, she's my daughter. And I wanted to spend time with both of my girls so bad. But I had to put myself in her shoes. I'm so proud of her for the position she's in. Like, she's doing stuff that, I mean, I could have only dreamed of doing. Like, she's a director of basketball operations for a major university. That's so cool. And she would have been stressed for 7 days on that ship because she just wants to do a good job in her role, right? Even with internet, she would have been stressed. So we decided, you know what, just do your job. Like, there'll be other cruises. And we'll get to do this. So she stayed home and she's doing her job, and she's going to excel at taking that team to Barcelona. They're going to do a great job over in Spain. I just hope she doesn't lose anybody. I just told her, don't lose any basketball players in Barcelona, especially after Dennis's cab story. He's got me freaked out about that. I just hope she gets in the right cab with her players. As soon as I saw that, I thought of Paige, by the way. So Dennis, you've helped me. You've given me nightmares for the last like 3 months or 3 weeks, however long it's been, ever since I heard that story. But beside the point, I think we made the right call. I missed her a ton, but there will be more cruises. And she has been there to support her team, and it was probably I know it was the right call. Because if she'd been on the ship, she would have enjoyed the cruise. Don't get me wrong, but you know how it is. Like, she has to be there for her program. She's 27 years old and the director of a major basketball program. She's got to be there to do her job. It would have been hard to do from a cruise ship because this is like an unprecedented thing for their program. So she made the right call. So I'm super proud of her. I'm not mad. I'm just, would I've loved to have sailed with her just selfishly? Yes, but I'm not mad at all. My heart swells because I'm proud of what she's doing. So that's why you didn't see Paige. Now, here was the problem though. I didn't want Mallory to not have anybody to hang out with, because Pam and I were going to, we wanted to do some of the adult things, go to Palo, brunch, dinner, stuff like that. So we had a stateroom that accommodated 5, actually, because when we booked this a couple of years ago, we thought we might bring one of her friends, and all of her friends went different ways because it was dead week for cheerleading. So we asked my niece, her cousin, if she wanted to go, and she's like, yeah, at the very last minute. So we added her. But the problem was, when we wanted to add her, the cruise was at capacity. Now, our stateroom could hold 5. So we had a bed in our stateroom, but we could not add her because there were no more lifeboats in our section of the ship. So I had to keep calling for like 2 weeks. And finally I got lucky that there was a cancellation in our section of the ship where there was enough lifeboat capacity that day that we got her added. So we added her. They had a blast. Zoe loves cruising now. Oh my God. Zoe loves eating. She loves cruising. She was like blown away. She loved everything about cruising. She loved going to the islands. They parasailed. We zip lined. We're going to talk about all that on the show. We zip lined in Tortola. We did a beach day at Emerald Beach. They kayaked in St. Thomas. They parasailed in Castaway Key. I mean, she's all about cruising. And her mom was following in real time because her mom gave her money to buy internet so they could it's her mom's, it's her only child. Her mom's like, please stay in touch. So they bought the internet, and I bought the internet and actually I used Patreon funds so that you guys could follow. I thought it'd be fun for you guys to follow along, and because I was going to buy it for Paige anyway. So I was like, well, I just used Paige's funds to buy internet for me so you guys could all see what was going on. I figured you guys get a kick out of, I love watching people live at Walt Disney World. I thought it'd be fun for you guys to see what was going on during a cruise. I got a kick out of that. How cool is that? I even FaceTimed Scotty G one night. I was like, I want to see if this works. I'll tell you what, the internet on the cruise ship works better than I thought. And I'm old. I don't know what I was expecting. I thought it'd be like 8-bit or something, but it worked well. I mean, did you see how many pictures and stuff I sent? I sent videos from in the middle of the ocean. Again, it doesn't take a lot to impress old Mike, but it was a lot of fun. So I'm going to be sharing a lot of this on the podcast, so I don't want to give too much away, but those were some of my first impressions. I am so excited to be back here in the podcast studios with you guys, but so much to share. We had a great stateroom. We had great service. And I know Scotty G, he went on his 14-night cruise, back-to-back 7-nighters with Royal, and I saw his pictures, and he went to an amazing part of the world. Those pictures he kept sending back, I thought were fake. They looked so cool. They looked amazing. And but the thing is, like, I've never been to that part of the world. I'll tell you what, my world's a little bit smaller than Scott's probably at this point in my life, but the places I got to see with my family too on this cruise were the most beautiful places I've seen so far in my life. And I'm proud of that. I've never seen anything as beautiful as Tortola in St. Thomas. The beautiful contrast of that blue ocean, the Caribbean Sea, contrasted against the green of those islands that just come right out of that water. Mallory just kept saying, Dad, I've never seen anything so beautiful. I've never seen anything so beautiful. And she kept telling me, Dad, I'm having such a good time. I love this. And there was a highlight of the cruise that was unexpected, but I'm going to save that for the show this week. So, and it was very minor, but it was the best thing ever for me. I'm going to share that for the big show. I'm about to cry thinking about it. Let's go over the feedback from last week's show real quick before we get out of here. And last week we talked about Meadowpark Steakhouse, a little steakhouse, Florissant, Missouri, where my dad was the drummer of the Rick Albright band. I got up there and sang Elvira and the Gambler sometimes. And man, that was a cool little place. Monday nights, they would be closed and we'd go in there with my dad for practice, eat crackers and with A1 on them and stuff. And I got to say, I want to take this moment because Deanna is one of our just dear listeners of the show. And one of our she's always in the clubhouse. She's listened to the show for ages. She's always in there with us and recording the shows live, the big show. And we mentioned her dog Hopper, right? I think it was last week's Mike in the Midwest. How Hopper, her beloved dog, had eaten a corn cob. And we talked about that on the podcast and had to have surgery. And we found out subsequently that he went in for surgery and passed away from that surgery. And I just wanted you to know that, you know, we all, especially in our podcast community, I know our listeners, we know that our dogs and our cats and our pets are part of the family. And I shed a tear when I heard this because you guys know how much I love Riley. Riley's my buddy. I mean, because except for in the summertime, it's just me and Riley here at the house. I work from home. So Mallory's off at school, Pam's off teaching, and it's just us, you know, like if it wasn't for Riley and me, you know, we go for walks and I talk to her more than it was a good thing I got you guys to talk to with this microphone in this show because, you know, they're family. And I just want Deanna to know that, you know, I said a bunch of prayers for you and for Hopper. And I know Hopper's chasing corn cobs up in the sky and getting his fill. So, you know, we're thinking of you, and I dedicate this show to Hopper and hope he's having a great day running around a big field up in the sky. And we're thinking of you because we know how much those animals, those dogs mean to us. Makes me sad, but thinking of you, Deanna. I know it's tough, but this one's for Hopper. All right. So Deanna had some more feedback and she says, I think last week I was thinking about slush puppies. And that's exactly what I was thinking about at the pool. She said, I used to serve those from the mall drink stand that she worked at in high school. Yeah, slush puppies were the best. I love slush puppies. And she says, sorry for all the comments she's posting as she listens. She says that she thinks Coke freestyle machines are payback for you going back behind the bar and using the 8 soda guns to create a soda. That's probably it. Because remember, I talked about Meadowpark Steakhouse because on Monday nights, the place was closed. And so my friend Brian and I had the run of the place while our parents were practicing. We go behind the bar and get that gun and just make sodas. Yeah. And have like a Pepsi or you have like a Coke button, a Sprite button. I don't know, Dr. Pepper button. I don't know what else it had. But we just make all those sodas with that gun. It was the coolest thing ever. But now I hate freestyle machines. They're the worst. Deanna continues. She says, we had a place like that we went to growing up. It was called Dorothy's Front Porch. The best part was after dinner, you got soft serve ice cream cone from the machine. Then you went out to the dock out back and fed the last of your cone to the alligators in the bayou out back, living large in Southeast Texas. Holy cow. You fed the cone to the alligators. Oh my God. I can only picture like Les Miles or who's the other guy? Go Tigers. Being out there. Oh my God. What's his name? The coach, the LSU coach after Les Miles. Oh my, go Tigers. I can't remember his name right now, but I get to see him out there feeding them. Trisha says, I hope you had a wonderful trip. If this is timed right, we are less than 365 days from the podcast cruise. On the topic of steakhouses, those were fancy restaurants I didn't go to as a kid. I didn't get to go to really either, except my dad played in it. The closest we got to was Outback Steakhouse or Ground Round. That was my speed, Ground Round. Both chain restaurants, but I loved Ground Round because they'd bring popcorn to your table when you were seated. Yes. Okay. I have a confession. I love going to restaurants where you get something on your table immediately because I'm usually hungry. I love Outback Outback because they give you the brown bread. I love Texas Roadhouse because they bring you the rolls, right? They used to bring you peanuts too. Now they don't give you peanuts. Like, I guess you can ask for them. They'll bring you like a bag sometimes. I like Mexican restaurants because they'll bring you chips and salsa. Like, I like to have something to nibble on while I'm waiting because sometimes you have to wait like 20 minutes for your food. I'm hungry. I love restaurants where you have something to nibble on immediately. Hot tip. I haven't rung the bell in 10 days. That felt good. Steve says Slush Puppies had those awesome tiny ice beads that made them so good. You really hit the jackpot with the self-serve Slush Puppy. I would recommend 2 pumps, but I would like to do 6. Nice. By the way, soft serve. I destroyed the soft serve ice cream on the Disney Fantasy. I hope it's still in operation for everybody today. And finally, George says, aloha, Mike. So I thought me and my friends were the only idiots growing up chasing down a mosquito truck. Oh my God, this is why George and I get along. I can see where this is going. When I lived in Florida for a year as a kid, we would also chase the truck on our bikes or run out into the street as it passed. We used to see who could stay in the mist the longest. The awful smell that mist, the awful smell that would sting your eyes and make it hard to breathe. I'm sure I've taken a few years off my life for that. Since I was a military brat, I didn't live in a place long enough to miss a local establishment, but I would say the old sit-down Pizza Huts would probably be the closest thing. I got to do a show on old Pizza Huts because they were the best. Oh, and I know that they're bringing some back in a few places. You can go back and they still have they have the pitchers, the red cups. They have the Ms. Pac-Man machines. They have the piping hot skillets where they serve you the first slice right out of the pan. Oh my God, the checkerboard tablecloths. Oh, I would pay big bucks to go to an old sit-down Pizza Hut. They were the best. And George, that's why we get along, man. We chased the mosquito truck. Something's wrong with us, but we love each other. All right, so that's going to do it for today's Mike in the Midwest. We're going to do this again next Sunday, but hey, tonight, I got to text Scotty G. I haven't talked to him, but I'm going to get him on the line. We are going to take your calls tonight, 7 o'clock Eastern, 6 o'clock Central for the BOGP open line. So it's been a minute. So give us a call. Let's talk Disney. Fill us in on what's going on because I've been out of touch basically for the last week. So whatever's on your mind, let's talk Disney. And then, of course, tomorrow on Monday, we'll be recording the shows. We'll take listener questions on Wednesday. And on Friday, I'll talk all highlights from the Disney Fantasy Cruise. St. Thomas, Tortola, Disney's Castaway Cay. And, of course, 1, 2, 3 days at sea with lots of fun. Palo brunch, Palo dinner, and great fun there. So thanks so much for your support. Guys, I cannot do this show without your support. And as long as you keep supporting us, we'll keep doing the show. And I love doing this show. I love it. We have a great community. We have something great going on. And it's so cool that we've been doing this since 2008. Guys, I love this. So let's keep it going. So we'll get back together tonight. I'm going to go eat some lunch, get some work done. My grass, super tall. When you go on vacation and it rains and the heat index is going to be 105 today. It's like a jungle out there. So wish me luck. But I'll be back to take your calls, 7 o'clock Eastern. So I hope you'll be there too. So until we talk again, you guys stay safe, stay healthy, and we'll see you real soon. All right. See you guys soon. Talk to you tonight.